Okay. Well, hello. Greetings, peace and power, elevation. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. And today's topic is going to be about Caroline Bunday. Okay. So I'm getting back into the subject about anthropology. And she was an anthropologist. So, March is Women History Month. So there's not a whole lot of information on her, but there's only enough that I could be able to find. Okay. Um, yeah, so Women History Month is about celebrating women across the globe and their working contribution. And also, we got to know when it comes to history, that's also the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything. So, I just want to get into the subject. All right. Reason why I speak on anthropology because it's the most important scientific field, a scientific field study. And I think that a lot of us, especially African Americans, need to really get involved in it before we try to jump into any other field. So that way we can get a thorough understanding about, understand about the biology, the culture, the linguistics, and the archaeology of things. So those are like the four aspect of anthropology, right? The four different type of anthropology. And it helps us to understand, but I think that it's underrated. It's not as popular as it should be, but I think that people need to start studying more about it. So, anyways, let's go ahead and let's get started on this subject matter. All right, so as you can see, this is Caroline Bunn Day. That's a picture of her. That's Miss Caroline. Okay. So she was born Caroline Stewart Bunday, and she was an American physical anthropologist, author, and educator. She was one of the first African Americans to receive a degree in anthropology. So, and she is recognized as a pioneer physical anthropologist who studied help future Black researcher and is used to challenge scientific racism about miscegenation or miscegenation. Excuse me. Okay, so her whole thing was to challenge the scientific racism regarding to about Black people and about those who was of mixed race. So because she came from a background of mixed race family, um, that was one of her reason why that she studied. So it's called miscegenation. Okay. All right. So that was her inspiration behind it. Anyways, it says she published various essays in the 1920s and 1930s, as well as a short story, The Pink Hat, which is believed to be an autobiographical. In 1927, she returned to Radcliffe, where she obtained a master's degree in anthropology in 1930. Her thesis, A Study of Some Negro White Families in the United States, published in 1932, contains sociological and anthropological information on 350 mixed race family histories with over 400 photographs. She subsequently spent a number of years teaching at Howard University. Day retired to Durham, North Carolina in 1939. She died on May the 5th, 1948, having been in poor health. Okay. So it says that Day was the first African American who turned her lens on her own family and social world, Negro white families, in order to scientifically measure and record the hybridity of mixed race families by using the language of what she referred to as blood quantum that illustrate the fraction of racial types. Her research challenged the perception of inferiority of non-whites. She attempted to eliminate racial preconception and discrimination and advocate social equality for all African Americans. Although Day's work was not well received within contemporary scholarship in the early 20th century and still remains controversial, her scientific research reevaluate the accomplishment of African American women in the white male dominated field of physical anthropology and marks the first step in understanding and promoting African American biological vindication. All right. So, yeah, that's what she did. She put up a challenge about the whole thing about blacks being inferior to whites. So she had to look at her own family, being that she comes from a family of mixed race people. So imagine what she had to go through with her white side of the family. Imagine her white side of the family part was just very prejudiced towards her because her other side of the family were Negro. Hmm. So she's saying that, it's not fair that African Americans should be looked at as inferior to those who are white. So she had to challenge the consensus about scientific racism. Okay. All right, then. So let's look at the early life. So Caroline Bunday was born on November 18th, 1889 to Georgia and Moses Stewart in Montgomery, Alabama. According to her own calculation of blood quantum, Day was mulatto, meaning that she was half white, half black, right? Well, she was mulatto. She was 7 out of 16 Negro, 1 out of 16 Indian, and 8 out of 16 white. After her father's death, her mother moved to Tuskegee, Alabama, where she taught at Tuskegee Elementary School and married John Percy Bunn, a life insurance company executive. They took her stepfather's last name and had a half sister, Winna Bond Logan, and a half brother, Jack Bond. Okay. So her education, she attended to Tuskegee Elementary School and Atlanta University High School. She received a bachelor's degree at Atlanta University in 1912, but her major and courses are unknown. They entered Radcliffe College in 1916. She took undergraduate courses with Ernest Hoot, the only physical anthropologist in the academic department at Harvard, and become the editor of her research project. They obtained her bachelor's degree from Radcliffe in 1919 and earned a master's degree from Harvard in 1932. Okay, so it says, by continuing to collect data, right? This is her research. She continued to collect data from people of mixed race, mixed black, and white ancestry in her spare time over the 13 years. They successfully published a study of some Negro white families in the United States in 1932. Her accomplishment brought her the title of the first African American anthropologist at Harvard to receive a master's degree with the first authorship for her research work. Her research was a unique anthropological study that provided over 400 family photographs and morphological features and possible inheritance pattern, and gave a scholarly examination of physiological, biological, and sociological characteristics of race crossing. Her research included information on respected families, including those of sculptor May Howard Jackson and other respected intellectuals in African American community. So it is possible that Day was influenced by W. Du Bois' sociological study on the African American as a social group. Du Bois, the editor of The Crisis, was a professor of economics and history at Atlanta University from 1896 to 1910. While Day was attending the university, Du Bois supported Day's research and corresponded with her regarding her thesis work at Radcliffe. In fact, Day utilized his family photos in her research project. Okay, so it goes on to say that skip some of this. So she occupied various jobs following her graduation from Radcliffe in 1919 in New York City. She worked with Black soldiers and their families in support of relief services. They also worked as a student secretary of the National Board of the YMCA in Montclair, New Jersey. After her marriage to Aaron Day in 1920, she and her husband moved to Waco, Texas, where she was dean of women at Paul Quinn College for a year and spent another year as head of English department at Prairie View State College. Okay, so she had moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where she then taught English and drama at the same university she first attended, which is Atlanta University. She taught there until 1929, while also publishing some essays and short stories, such as her famous tale, The Pink Hat. Between the year 1927 and 1930, Day was on leave to take some courses in anthropology at Radcliffe and also to continue the research that she began with Ernest Houghton in her senior year at Radcliffe in 1919. All right, so it said while working on her research in Houghton's lab, Day was able to collect and analyze sociological and physiological information on 346 families, including her own. These resulted were published in 1932 by Harvard's Peabody Museum. All right, so again, the title of the book was a study of some Negro white families in the United States. After a while, Day took a break from the project due to being exhausted and rheumatic heart condition. So she returned teaching at Atlanta University, taught English, and was also said to have given the first class in anthropology ever offered in Atlanta University. Day and her husband then moved to Washington, D.C. in 1930, where she then taught English at Howard University for 2 years, following her job in social work at Settlement House supervisor in Washington, D.C., and then as general secretary of the Phyllis Willie YMCA. Finally, in the late 1939, the Day moved to Durham, North Carolina, where Day taught English and drama at North Carolina College for Negroes. Now it's North Carolina Central University. But then she had to retire due to her heart illness. Okay. So she had complications to her heart condition and whatnot. All right. So it says here, Day's archive is kept at the Peabody Museum of Harvard University. Additional edition of her thesis is available through Harvard University Library. Let's see. All right, so there's a list of people that others can look into. All right, so, and here's the references at the bottom of the page. So I think the whole point she was trying to get at was that we all got some form of admixture in us. So that was the beginning stage of studying admixture culture, cross racing amongst humanity. So she was the first to really do that. She was the first to challenge that consensus because back then they was going by the 1% rule and all of that. So a lot of Black people during that time period did not have any knowledge of the fact that there's no such thing as a pure race of people, because being a pure race, that's a social construct or whatnot. But she broke that narrative. She broke that stereotype, and she went and studied her own family and studied other African Americans who had whites mixed in their family and whatnot, and presented as her thesis and all that. So again, she was challenging scientific racism. Let's see. So there's a book on here. All right, so there's this book called African American Pioneer in Anthropology. Okay, and she's in this book. Once again, that's a picture of her right here. All right, so I just want to read a little something right here. Okay, so Caroline Day, pioneer Black physical anthropologist, right? Hubert B. Ross, Amelia Marie Adams, and Lynn Mallory Williams. Okay. So it says science is filled with research lines that's eventually died out. Those who follow such trends tend to become lost and forgotten between the dusty pages of old journals as new and better theories developed. Such was the case Caroline Bunday, who received her master's degree in 1932, making her one of the first African Americans to receive a graduate degree in anthropology. Her research on race crossing was published in 1932. And again, it was titled A Study of Some Negro White Families in the United States, and included a foreword and notes on the anthropometric data by Ernest A. Houghton. Within this study, they examined the morphological and sociological results of Black and white race crossing. Her reason for conducting this study is evidence from the opening statement. The people studied in this group are not, for the most part, the type with which the public is familiar individually, nor are they those used as literary material by the novelists and playwrights of today. Many of these families, especially those in the South, live in worlds of their own, tucked away here and there on some quiet street or in little peaceful neighborhoods, frequently unknown and unobserved by those about them. The average tourist in the South never suspected their existence. If he is shown Negro life at all, he is usually conducted through a slum district, the the squalor of which probably seems heightened to him by the fact of physical differences. If he were to see this group in which physical differences are less striking, he would probably be impressed with similarities to any other middle class group of American people rather than differences. All right. So it goes on to say, for Day, the concept of race and class were intertwined. The biological hybrids that she proposed to study were equivalent to a social middle class, and Day hoped to reveal the existence of a Black middle class family in the urban centers of America. This blurred division between biological and sociological constructs was characteristic of early scientific studies. Biologically oriented studies that used genealogical information as they had done was hindered further by an erroneous understanding of inheritance process. At the time of Day's research, most scientists believed that biological traits were inherited through the blood. For these reasons, among others, Caroline Bunday has been all but forgotten to anthropologists of today. All right. So that was that information. Again, the title of the book is The African Americans Pioneers in Anthropology. All right. So I am going to log out. All right. So that's all I have. That's all I have for today. Okay. Again, shout out to all the Black anthropologists out there. Continue to do the work. Hopefully, more people will give more exposure to Black people that's in the STEM field and give them the acknowledgement and the respect they deserve. All right. So until next time, take it easy. May peace and power elevation be to all you. This your girl, Tiffany. And I'm logging off saying deuces. All right. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, share the channel, like the channel, and check out my other video contents on here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Peace.